and the sexiest man on television, allegedly, do their stuff on the news.
Good evening and welcome to the programme that takes the whoopee cushion of satire and places it under the bottom of current affairs, as the Times Literary Supplement put it. In the news this week, Britain's new inner-city security cameras succeed in getting a clear picture of the country's #1 juvenile offender. Sport, and having deliberately avoided a showdown with Lennox Lewis, WBA champion Riddick Bowe instead reveals his next opponent. And in central London, police are alerted after a spectacular jailbreak from London Zoo. On Ian Hislop's team tonight, a woman who, in preparation for this programme, has appeared in School for Scandal, All the Fun of the Fair and Serious Money. Well, 2 out of 3 are appropriate. Actress and writer Meera Syal. And with Paul Merton, someone who has the job of looking after all the money at the Daily Mirror since Robert Maxwell left. That can't take up much time. Managing editor of the Mirror Group, Amanda Platell. And so we speed hallucinogenically into the pineapple-shaped elephant that is round 1. A couple of bits of historic footage from as long ago as last week. Ian and Meera, kindly elucidate.
Local elections.
Local elections, national elections, they got stuffed in all of them. Who says there's no good news around? It was a very sad day for Norman Lamont. Unbelievably, somebody sent him down to the by-election, the idea that he might help the vote. Yeah. No, it's a great win. It was a historic day. I mean, the Mirror celebrated by putting a big story about Bananarama on the front page.
Yes, it is. It's the Tory disarray after their electoral disasters. One cabinet minister is reported as saying Norman Lamont will have to go because it will look as if John is being timid if he doesn't. Well, we can't have John Major looking timid. Whatever next? Douglas Hurd looking boring. Peter Lilly hit back saying one thing you have to remember is the basic rule of politics, that no good chancellor is popular. And sure enough, Norman Lamont is no good chancellor. Ministers are now trying to persuade Lord Owen to join the Conservatives, as they believe he would add weight and freshness to the cabinet. Now, there aren't many things in this world that are heavy and fresh, but bullshit is certainly one of them. It's interesting to note that if the SDP had merged with the Conservatives, instead of forming the Lib Dem party, they'd have become the Condem party. Rather more appropriate. Paul and Amanda, recognise any faces here?
Yes, one. This is Tomatogate, isn't it? James Whittaker, affectionately known as the Big Red Tomato by Diana. That's the tapes that they're supposed to use. That's Highgrove where they're supposed to have been taped. And surely that's Diana winning the publicity wars, being the wonderful, caring mother she always is.
Perfect answer, in my view.
It's the latest dye tapes, allegedly found by reporters in an MI5 file reserved for highly sensitive, top-secret material, marked discarded information. Now, unfortunately, MI5 chose to abbreviate this to the initials DI. Must have cunningly concealed the contents. Kenneth Clarke initially reacted to allegations that someone was bugging the royals by saying that it was as likely as the Archbishop of Canterbury mugging someone. Later on, however, Clarke admitted that the royals were being bugged, as a man in a purple dress with a flick knife was being led away by police. A Daily Mirror reporter and friend to the royals, James Whittaker, claimed that he'd originated the story, which the Sun scooped, and what's more, his bosses on the Mirror withheld the £65,000 he'd been promised. Not the best of days for Mr Whittaker, especially as Diana then described him, as we've said, as the big fat red tomato, but presumably nothing compared with what he called you, Amanda, after you took £65,000.
I did enjoy the Mirror whinging that the Sun had nicked their story, as though the tapes weren't nicked themselves. Anyway, oh dear, naughty old Sun.
Yeah, but we nicked them first.
Oh, right, you nicked them for all that.
Ian and Meera, food for thought here.
Oh, they found Robert Maxwell. Great. This is the International Whaling Convention met. I think it was in Japan to discuss lifting the ban on whaling.
A perfect
And I
answer.
think Norway wants to carry on.
Angus, I have to add here, it's not actually a perfect answer. Not very many people know this, but the Prince of Wales is considering adopting the whales as one of his mascots because he feels he has a lot in common with them. Basically, they're an endangered species, and everyone's out to spear them. But whales also mate for life, so he's having a little problem over that one.
They've got big ears as well. Well, I suppose they haven't, because they'd hear the ships coming in, wouldn't they?
I suppose you want extra points for that, don't you?
Oh, don't I get them?
No, you don't get any
I
at
don't
all.
think he
But,
knows of him.
no.
Do you know he's been knocking off my missus?
I saw that last week. It's absolutely extraordinary.
It was a contractual obligation, I've explained this.
So that was all the fine print that I couldn't read.
Yes, well,
It's the repeat fees that bother me.
yes, looking forward to the residuals. It's,
You clear it up yourself.
yes. Look forward to this one going out at 8:30 on Saturday night.
That's what she said.
Several hours ago, you may remember, there was a question about whaling, to which we'll now
I
go
enjoyed
back.
the one about you knocking off Paul's missus.
Moving swiftly on, it is the International Whaling Commission in Kyoto, where Norway and Japan are fighting to make wheeling?
Yeah. It's illegal to put wheels on a whale. The Japanese think of them as stabilisers. Helps them to get down to the shops, in fact.
It's true, actually.
Yeah.
And also whaling.
She said, "Is next Thursday all right with you?"
Unfortunately, I'm seeing Ian's wife that night. The International Whaling Commission in Kyoto, yes, where Norway and Japan are fighting to make whaling legal again. Norway argues that there are now 750,000 whales in the Atlantic, enough to support a cull of 800 a year. Interestingly, a convention of whales has worked out there are over 4 million Norwegians, enough to support a cull of some 8,000 a year. But there is a serious side to this question. Things are said to be so grave that Norway could yet pull out of the Eurovision Song Contest. Robbing everyone of the joy of seeing them score nul point again. Paul and Amanda, some amusingly shaped vegetables for you.
Cucumbers, oh yes. Safe sex with a cucumber. Always put it in a glass container. Oh, that's one I made earlier, obviously. There's another vegetable, holding some cucumbers. Is it the EC have said that all cucumbers must be straight because bendy ones are more difficult to pack and it's wasteful. If you have a box full of bendy cucumbers, you are wasting a certain amount of space, which is taken up by the bend.
It is, yes, it is the EC directive to encourage the straightening of cucumbers. Euro executive Martin Weidner explained you can get more straight cucumbers in a box than bent ones. So he's well worth his 75 grand a year. He and his committee have been working out the precise optimum angle of curvature. I should think 45 degrees inserted anally would be my recommendation. Which illuminating information brings us crawling to the end of this preliminary skirmish, and the situation is that, somewhat predictably, Ian and Meera and Paul and Amanda all share a small but perfectly formed 4. Seconds away from round 2, but before all that, all this, 2 captionless photographs for our guests to muse upon. Ian and Meera's looks like this. Paul and Amanda, yours is like that.
Dear.
So let's bounce googly-like into our literally second round. 4 cryptic bylines from the seedier side of Fleet Street. What are the stories they preface? Paul, I very nearly play on words for you. Vegan spoon race.
Vegan egg and spoon, presumably.
Well done.
It's like being back at school, isn't it?
Nothing
Well,
but
I presume it's vegans have sort of complained about they don't want to use an egg in an egg and spoon race because they don't want to go near an egg. So they've replaced the egg with something else, like a bent cucumber or something like that. That's basically the vegan spoon race story as I see it. And now sport.
It is the vegan society who want to ban egg and spoon races because they say they're cruel to hens. Yes, they always come last because they can't hold the spoon without vegans object to people buying eggs and even more to what they call boiling an egg to death. Rather an emotive way of describing a method of cooking. Break 3 eggs into a bowl and scramble them to death. Vegans won't eat honey because it's cruel to bees, they won't drink milk because it's cruel to cows, and they'll only wear plastic shoes, which is rather cruel to whoever has to wash their socks. Amanda, an intriguing image for you. Troops armed with honey take out a Big Mac.
Oh, that's that lovely story about the British troops who went to rescue that bear, wasn't it? Mackenzie or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so they took out a few jars of honey to lure him away and staged this incredibly complicated rescue mission, and they got him out to spit.
Yes, it is. It is news that in the week that 30,000 Muslims...
Can you disguise your disappointment at us getting a question right?
No, I evidently can't, unfortunately. In the week that 30,000 Muslims were forced out of their homes in Bosnia, the British Army there was rescuing a bear. The operation involved 4 warrior fighting vehicles, 2 lorries, 2 armoured cars and a crane. Just as well there weren't 2 bears, or our defence budget would have been doubled. Ironically, while the army was saving 1 bear, Chessington Zoo was packing off a further 2 bears to Croatia. Their vet said, "It's not an ideal option, but I think that on balance it's better than shooting them." I can't think of many things that aren't on balance better than being shot. The polar bear's new life in Croatia consists of pacing around a filthy pool with 3 inedible meals a day, rather similar to a Thompson's holiday in Yugoslavia before the war. Meera, a sad case of insanity for you. Crazy for the Count.
This is acid rain, isn't it? Rain Spencer, Di's mum, has dragged herself out of mourning to to marry a rather handsome French count who doesn't speak English very well, but charmingly.
Interestingly, he proposed to someone else about a month beforehand. Obviously one of these Frenchmen who wanders around proposing to people.
Yes.
Only if they're very rich.
Only if they're very... That's very cynical.
Very cynical thing to say.
Are you suggesting just because he's a bit short of cash and she's got 15 to 20 million and Barbara Cartland's waiting to inherit, he took that into account?
I think he probably took that into account.
Well, that's shocking. No wonder you get into so much trouble.
Didn't Barbara Cartland say you can't trust a Frenchman because when they wake up in the morning they're only thinking of who they can sleep with next? I expect if I woke up to Barbara Cartland I'd probably think something similar.
Unlike Barbara Cartland's husband, who she split up with after a few happy romantic years of marriage.
He was fed up of sleeping in the chalk patch. Allegedly.
Yes. Yes, it is. It's Count Jean-François de Chambrun, who, despite successive business failures and a costly divorce, announced his engagement to Rain Spencer this week, having at long last found the woman of his dreams. Jean-François said, "You must excuse me, I am French and I may be using the wrong words. I will be her 3rd count." Well, let's hope you got the right one there. Ian, a thrilling tale for you. Bottomley goes shopping to Tesco's.
Well, the government, in the person Mrs Bottomley, has come up with a new privatisation wheeze, which is that they're not going to build any new hospitals, which you may have thought was true anyway. They're going to get M&S and Tesco's to do it instead.
Mm-hmm.
They should just combine the two, you know, put the hospital in the Tesco's. You could keep the old-aged people in the deep freeze and...
You could have till 6 operations or less.
That's right.
I'd like to return the skin graft. It doesn't quite fit.
Yes, well done. It's the announcement that companies such as Tesco's may soon be building new hospitals in rural areas in exchange for old NHS sites in the centre of towns. The scheme is part of the government's plan to inject private sector policies into the health service, so look out for those family packs of plastic hip joints, offers of 2 heart transplants for the price of 1, and a free copy of Family Circle with every anaesthetic. Not that you really need an anaesthetic if you read Family Circle. Hey, Paul.
Does Paul advertise Family Circle?
No, he writes in it.
He writes in it?
He's the main features editor.
Yes, I have done for 2 years, so you're well up on the press, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm
Do we
immediately
count
after
Family Circle as the press?
Oh, yes.
I suppose the same as calling Imperial Leather a soap.
Well, it's not a horse, is it? What else?
The way you advertise it, I can't tell.
Oh, really? And there's you doing your adverts for Cooper's Creosote.
I've not seen that commercial. It sounds intriguing.
You'll be doing the voiceover soon enough.
Monday morning, actually, oddly enough. Yes, even now,
When you're not
hospitals...
too busy knocking off my wife.
So jealous. Even now, hospitals are devising commercials with slogans such as everything you want from a genito-urinary department, but a little bit more. But enough of that, all of which surgical strikes bring us neatly to the end of this pulsating round, and the story so far is that, well, both sides are remaining solidly together on this one, Ian and Meera and Paul and Amanda enjoying a united 8. So we burst in unannounced on our now widely ignored odd one out round for Teachers' Pets, which is the John Patton. Paul, some global glamour pussies for you. Bill Clinton. Mm-hmm. Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
J. Edgar Hoover.
Lovely.
And President Khrushchev.
Gorgeous. Is it Kennedy? President Kennedy connection of some kind?
Yeah, might be.
He met Kennedy, didn't he? Clinton met Kennedy when he was 13. He shook his hand.
He hasn't washed to this day.
No. Well, he would if he used Cousins Imperial leather. Say, Clinton shaking his hand. Well, Khrushchev must have shaken his hand. J. Edgar Hoover must have shaken his hand. And Marilyn Monroe... must have thanked him in some other way.
Yes, shaken another part of him. Yes. It's astonishingly, absolutely correct. It is that all of them have shaken hands with President Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was famous for liking anything in a skirt, so no wonder J. Edgar Hoover kept his job for so long. Amanda, your potpourri of reprobates. Norman Fowler.
Potpourri?
Potpourri, sure.
Pop noodle? Potpourri?
Stop!
I don't want to be pernickety, Angus.
No, I think you're
It's
being
just because
anyway.
you questioned my questionnaire last week.
Amanda, your potpourri. Norman
Paul,
Fowler.
help me.
Lord Walker. 18th century philosopher Adam Smith. And Norman Tebbit.
I mean, they're all far right, aren't they? The Adam Smith
They all work for the
Institute...
Mirror now, don't they? I think this is a private privatisation question. Because Adam Smith, his institute is dedicated to the ideals of private ownership. And the other 3 Tory ministers privatised various public utilities and then coincidentally took fantastically well-paid jobs with those utilities shortly afterwards. Norman Tebbit is now on the board of the private British Telecom, which you used to own. Walker now works for British Gas, which you used to own. And good old Sir Norman Fowler is on the board of, I think, the National Freight Company and Group 4. Is that the link? It's men who pushed forward privatisations of industries and then took jobs straight afterwards at huge salaries.
It is a satirical and a correct answer, but not in any way remotely amusing. It is...
She says, can you wear something distinctive? And she's forgotten what you look like.
Well, I've got a number of brown suits to choose from, actually. Meera, your hybrid concoction consists of Giles Brandreth, Batman, Princess Michael of Kent, and Martin Lewis.
Well, I know Martin Lewis has just written a book about cats.
Good.
Batman had his Catwoman, of course. Princess Michael's Moggies got done on their doorstep. Somebody's a rotten shot. And Giles Brandreth couldn't pull pussy if he tried.
Is Batman the odd one out? Because all the others have published books about cats and are notorious cat lovers.
Well, I'll give you one, because you
Thank you
got
very
it
much. I'll
absolutely...
tell the wife. Keep it in the family, eh, Angus?
Wednesday night, all right? Yeah, I'll give you one because you got the...
Is that the same one as you gave me earlier?
Yeah.
You're a fit boy, aren't you?
But I'll give Meera one as well.
Oh, well, why don't you start in the front row of the audience? You animal!
I'm afraid that's just the sort of man I am. Because you did get it right, or you got most of it right, but you actually got the right one out. The answer is that they're all cat lovers, apart from Batman, who, of course, was a lifelong enemy of Catwoman. Martin Lewis claims that cats are very good at easing tensions in the family. If we're having a blazing row and suddenly the cat walks in, it seems to diffuse the argument. What do you mean you're having an affair with your secretary? Ah, tiddles. Princess Michael has tragically lost 2 cats recently. Her secretary said, we think the killer was a squirrel, although we have no proof. So no little bags of nuts left lying around or telltale paw marks on the baseball bat. And Giles Brandreth has a cat which he named after himself. Must be a bit embarrassing walking into the garden and shouting, "Git!" And finally in this round, Ian, choose any one from Nigel Short, Labour peer Lord Hollick, Britain Plastics Limited of East Kilbride, and the Czechoslovakian football team.
Czechoslovakian? Good.
Yes.
Oh, large sums of money? Something to do with payment. Odd ways of being paid. Because Nigel Short tried...
still speaking in English sentences?
I'll start again. Tell us the answer, Angus, you smarmy git.
No, you are on the right lines. Payments, yes.
They've all been paid in odd ways, not in money, but with
apart from...
things. Apart from...
Just pick any square, really. So,
apart from the plastics factory in East Kilbride?
absurd suggestion. No, you got the reason right, so I'll give you one for that. But the answer is that all of them have been involved with payments in unconventional commodities or products, except Nigel Short. The Czech football players were offered a Lada car if they scored a goal in the World Cup, and if they scored 2 goals, they got a skateboard. Britain Plastics Limited part-paid their workers in cocoa beans, which is apparently something of a growing trend. Many petrol pump attendants are paid off in fuel, and some brewery workers are now part-paid in beer. Sewage workers have voted unanimously not to extend the scheme. And senior Labour peer Lord Hollick was managing director of MAI, who've paid staff in gold bullion, which, as luck would have it, avoids the need to pay national insurance. Makes Ken Dodd look innocent, which, of course, he is, as we know. All of which suspect stories mean an end to this odd round, and a leisurely defeat looks more than likely for Paul and Amanda, who have 11, as Ian and Meera stroll on with 12. And so, due to public demand and the absence of any alternative, it's our final missing words round. 2 flagrant displays of half-exposed headlines. What are they covering up? Paul and Amanda, you're last. So, drugs use admitted by 1 in 3 what?
Drug users?
Isn't it British
Certainly
teenagers?
not. Is it
1 in 3
British
green elephants.
teenagers.
I'll give you 1 for that. Of the young is the
You
right
should
answer.
give me 2.
Well, that's very kind of
Who's
you, but
younger?
You need to get some sort of rota system, really.
I'm going to be exhausted by the end of the week. Next, Bert joins what at last?
Q for Angus Dayton's sexual favours.
So that's where I draw the line, I'm afraid.
BBC staff.
BBC staff is correct. Next, who is Mr. Wobbly?
Apparently you are, Angus.
Linford Christie?
Is it publicity for one of those new films, like Burt Reynolds is Mr. Wobbly? Major.
This isn't the answer.
John
Major is
Clinton.
the right answer. Very good. And lastly, PM refuses Thatcher's demand for what?
Good seeing too. Referendum.
A referendum is the perfect answer. Well done. Thank you very much. So, Ian and Meera, consider this. Group 4 rescues what?
UK brewing industry.
Fisherman?
No one at all.
I'll give you...
Rescues Norman
15
Fowler's tragic
fishermen.
career.
15 fishermen. Meera's getting the right answer while you're babbling on. It's,
Good.
Absolutely right. Next, Conservatives lick what?
15 fishermen?
They're wounds.
Wounds. I think Meera was
that what they
slightly
call them?
before Paul. Next, Lonely Madonna wants...
Malleable baby as fashion accessory?
No.
No,
It is
child.
a baby, yeah.
This was a personal ad in the Jerusalem Post about 2,000 years ago.
Nice one.
I'll give you one for that. To adopt a baby boy is correct. And finally, Dangers of What the What by Princess Diana.
Kissing the frog.
Is it Thomas the Tank Engine?
It's not that far away from Thomas the Tank Engine.
Dangers of overdoing the saintly bit.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Videos
is absolutely right.
and Game Boys.
Is absolutely
so
right.
I was there before you, so you have to give me another one.
well, you
another
can.
point. Another point.
Which haphazard exhibition of second-guessing brings us all collectively to the simultaneous climax of tonight's show. And
It's
the
all
fact
filth,
is,
isn't it, with Angus?
It's nothing to do with it. And the fact is that this week's hopeless tarts are Ian and Meera with 17, and this week's jammy dodgers are Paul and Amanda with 21. So a basket of bath oils for our winners, a bucket of sump oil for our losers. But before they ease themselves gently into the bar, it's time again to confront our caption competition. Ian and Meera, this I think was yours.
Oh, I'll be out of a job soon too.
Hello, have you come far? Are you one of those buggers I keep reading about?
Thank you. Paul and Amanda, what do you come up with for this?
Oh, British Leyland revealed their new staff haircut. Oh, I can see what's wrong with it, mate. There's a fat bloke stuck under your rear axle.
On which unfeasible note, we say thank you to our guests.
Look at that fat nutter with the car on his head. Oi, mate, you got a car on your head.
Thank you.
You'll never do a three-point turn. Not with that car on your head, you won't. Look, Mummy, that man's got a car on his head.
The car on your head monologue by Paul Merton.
So we're penciling in Thursday, are we?
Yes. Wednesday, I think. It's Thursday with your wife.
All right.
We say thank you then to our guests Ian Hislop and Meera Syal, Paul Merton and Amanda Platell. And I leave you with news of a recently discovered archive picture suggesting that Sherlock Holmes' drug problem was worse than previously suspected. Somewhere in England, the finishing touches are put to Salman Rushdie's front garden path. And finally, photographs suggest that Richard Branson may have been subjected to his most humiliating smear yet. Good night.